ladies. Happy Tuesday. I hope everybody's having a fantastic night or Wednesday morning, depending on where you are in the world. And tonight is super important to me. It's something that I talk about a lot, and I talked about it just actually the other day on one of my coaching client calls. So we're going to talk today about strength and power and how that relates to our bodies and what we need actually to get some more of strength and get some more power. So strength and power. I want to start this off by telling you basically a little story. So my friend Leah, she power lifts, and she's a good friend of mine. I've known her since before she started powerlifting, and she came down for a visit, and we obviously started talking. She powerlifts, I do a lot of training for women, and so inevitably we started talking about the subject of training and lifting, and I was asking about her routine, asking her about what she does, and she competes in powerlifting. And one of the things that I was like, what's your biggest thing that you've done that's helped you with your lifting? And she goes, honestly, Liz, she goes, it's the other stuff. I'm like, the other stuff? Like, this makes me super excited because the other stuff is what I love. It's what I really get pumped about because it's the parts that get missed in a lot of training programs. It's the parts that need to be added to a lot of training programs. And so she started talking a little bit more about the other stuff. And it ended up being that she was doing a lot of lower trap strengthening, which is this muscle that comes down right through here and attaches from your shoulder blade to your spine. She was doing a ton of core strengthening, and she was doing a whole lot of just stability, isometric, body focused, and then also unilateral support, aka focusing in that one side wasn't compensating for the other side. And so if you do one-sided activities, one-sided exercises, then you will be more likely to train evenly and to not compensate over that. And I was like, Leah, that sounds all good, but what about your actual lifting? And she lifts maybe like once or twice a week, like really heavy. But the extra stuff that she does is what she needs to do more. So what I want to back up to is the fact that a lot of times we as ladies are told we just need strength training. You gotta lift heavy. You gotta do resistance training. You really gotta build up, which is true. We need a whole lot more strength as ladies. We need to focus in on that. We need it for our bone health. We need it for our joint health. We need to have bigger muscles with that. We need to put this stress on our joints, on our bones, so they react and get bigger and more dense from it. We need it. But there's a point that you start. So I was listening to a podcast today, and it was talking about business and how you don't look at, if you're starting your business, you don't look at somebody that's making millions and millions of dollars and do what they're doing. Just the same as if you're starting to work out, you're starting to exercise, you don't look at the pro athletes and what they're doing. It's two separate things. You're starting at two different points. Eventually you might get to that point. Eventually I might get to where I'm going to be looking at other places, other bigger businesses, and trying to resemble them. But I don't need to start that way. I don't have the capital. I don't have all these other things. Same thing for us as we look for training. I don't need to look at the pro athletes and be like, I should train like them. I don't need to. I need to look at people that are just one step ahead of me. I need to train at my level. And so to do a lot more of the resistance training, to do a lot more of the strength training, you need to come in and start at the small bits. You need to start at making sure your core is working for you. You need to make sure that your shoulder blades are actually activating, and that as you do any of the lifts, like you're locking them in, that you have those guys activated so you can support. And so a lot of times when we think about joints, when we think about bones, when we think about how we're supporting our body, we got to look at where the force is coming from. Where are we generating it from? Where are we putting it to? So if I'm going to bend my arm, if I'm going to do a bicep curl, this is just a simple example of this. If I'm going to do this bicep curl, I need my shoulder to stay still because that's where I'm pulling from. It has two different heads, one that comes up and touches through here, and the other one attaches up to the top of my shoulder. As I curl, I need here to stay nice and still so I can generate force and move my elbow. I need that control, that stability. Otherwise, I'm going to put offsetting forces through my shoulder joint, and that's not going to be helpful. So who has ever felt like they wanted to do more strength training? Who's ever felt that? I felt it before. I've had periods in my life that I man, I really need to get my butt in gear. I need to get this going. And then I would go to the gym and I would do strength training exercises. And then I would pay mightily for it. I'd either stress my back, I would stress my hips would be super tight afterwards, my neck would be tight, all of these things. What I needed is actually the other stuff so I could strength train more. A lot of times it's that work of that control. So as I was saying about more of what you need for force generation and where it comes from is key. And we talk about it a lot for mountain biking. I talked about it a lot for whenever you were getting out of the saddle and how you were generating that force. You have your points of contact. That's where your stable base is. That's where you're pulling from. And then for your lifts, for doing any of your strength training exercises, if you're doing deadlifts, if you're doing squats, all about where your force is being generated from and where you have to transfer it over to. So if I have weight that's on my shoulders and I'm doing a squat, I need to transfer this load down to my feet. And that's where some of the power gets generated down through. The key is, what am I using as my mover? What am I using as my stabilizer? And do I have those both working for me? My mover needs to be my hip muscles, my glutes, my quads. Those are my big movers. Those are our big anti-gravity muscles. They would keep us from just plopping on the ground with all that weight. What I need as my stabilizers is how to transfer the load and make sure it stays in those zones. Stays where my quads can help me, stays where my glutes can help me. And if it's loaded up through here and I'm doing a squat, I need to make sure that load's transferred down into these areas, not stressing back through either one of these and not just stressing my knees, using both of these things. Same thing for deadlift. If I'm coming down for my deadlift here and I'm driving up through it, I need to make sure that I'm transferring the load from my arms down through my trunk, through stabilizing muscles through here, to my movers, my glutes and my hamstrings. And so when we think about increasing our strength, increasing our power, how we make sure our joints are super happy with this is that we make sure our stabilizing muscles are there. So then whenever we're actually training strength, we're actually training power, we're training our movers and our stabilizers. When you do power moves, when you do strength moves, you should feel your core working. Do you? For those that are watching, do you feel like you're doing your strength exercises correctly? Do you feel like you're using these guys? Are you generating your force from the right areas? Are you transferring that force to the right areas? Are you feeling that generation? Or are you transferring that force to a joint that's not supposed to carry that load? Am I transferring this load to my back? Am I transferring this load to my neck? Do you feel like you're doing these correctly? This is a key part when it comes to strength training. I've had so many people come into my clinic and be like, well, I just wanted to start getting stronger. I just wanted to do this more. And it's that if you don't focus in on how you're doing the exercise to do it correctly, then your strength training will be counterproductive. If I'm strength training and straining my back, I'm 1, teaching myself bad habits, 2, putting more load on my back than what it's supposed to tolerate and carry. And then I'm not actually getting the bang for my buck. I'm not training the muscles that I need to train. And so it's being counterproductive. A lot of people don't want to go back and do the smaller exercises. They don't feel strong doing them. They don't feel successful doing them. But I promise you, if you do those smaller exercises, there's so many ladies that I've worked with that if you do the smaller exercises, then you feel the difference in your lifts. You feel the difference in how you can lift. All of these things cross over to help you with your riding. For mountain biking specifically, we need more strength, we need more power, and we need the endurance of that strength and power. But until you gain that strength and power, you can't gain the endurance behind it, specifically for mountain biking. If we're talking road riding, we're talking like gravel riding, it's not as applicable because there's not those like specific power moves. There's those roots and rocks, those other obstacles that we have to go over. That's where we need more strength. That's where we need more power. That's where we need more explosiveness from this. But we have to have the stability to put that force to use those other specific muscles. And that's why we can go into that next little bit. Cindy says she loves strength training, but can definitely appreciate how important some of the smaller, inconspicuous muscles are. I love it, girl. You know. You've been doing it. What about anybody else? Anybody else do strength training? Or is strength training like completely foreign? Do we need to go over some more strength training stuff in here? We need to go over this stuff. Like, these are important areas for us as ladies. Like, we need to be able to cross into this. It's really important for our bodies. It's important for our health. It's important for our joint health. Like, if I load through my hips, then my hips are happier. I'm using my glutes, controlling that. My core is on. My, full core includes lats, and includes our other muscles that come down from our shoulder blades. Like, all of that stuff helps tremendously. Like, those are where you get that. But making sure that you're transferring that load appropriately is the key. Just like Leah with her powerlifting. Like, powerlifting, that's the extreme of power and strength. And she really makes it a point to focus in on her core, to focus in on the lower trap. She made the mistake of needing to seek out other care. Like, she needed to go see a PT for some of these things. And she now tells all of her other people that she trains with about the lower trap and how important that is. It's so key and imperative. That's what makes your shoulder blade go down and be able to lock in. That's what gives you stability whenever you're on the bike through here, of keeping the shoulder blades away from your ears. That's why it's so imperative for you. So, main point for tonight. We need strength training for mountain biking to be able to power up those roots, to be able to power up those rocks, to feel stronger and more confident on the bike. To do that, you need to do the strength training exercises correctly, which means that you probably need more core control. You probably need more shoulder blade activation. You need to be able to transfer the load, understand where that force is coming from. Just think about where you're generating it from, where your power movers, and where your stabilizers. Are you using both in that activity, in that exercise? Because you should use both of them for it. Now, side note within this is that as you gain strength, then you can work on your endurance in that. And so we start working for endurance at smaller strength levels because that's what we have. Usually we have a smaller strength level, and so we can work the endurance for that. As we gain more strength, we can work the endurance for that area too. And that's how we gain this longevity for some of these punchier climbs. That's how we get that oomph over that period. When it comes to making sure that you're getting that, it's how you're organizing your workout. It's how you're accessing those different muscle groups. I hope this was helpful for you. I hope that if you need help with some of this strength training, that you reach out to somebody. There's a lot of us personal trainers out there that are helping, that want to make you progress. Making sure you're training for mountain biking specifically is also key. Using more of those one-sided things. Making sure your right leg is just as strong as your left. Those are key parts of this. Making sure you're not compensating all on that one side. And so for some of your power lifts, they could look different. For some of your strength lifts, they could look different than doing just a regular squat. Doing more of a side lunge. Doing more of a reverse lunge. Like, these are somewhat power moves. You're having to generate that force to come up. And it's more one-sided. And so knowing that you're doing a one-sided thing means that you almost cut the weight in half. Like, that's a key part. Erin said that she lifts 4 days a week. The powerlifting program, core working properly, is important even after years of lifting regular. She's having to take a few steps back. Doing the core crushers program, it's really helped her so much. And she's getting PR lifts and mountain bike rides. I love it, girl. It's so important. I knew you would love this conversation. You'd be like, yes, this is what I've been doing. Like, it's just, so many people need this. Like, you want to lift. We've been told to lift. We read all these books that are like, yes, strength train. But if you just try to go out and strength train, then you're missing a key component. Like, Stacy Sim talks about it in her Roar book, which she has a lot of great information in there. And she is correct. We do need to strength train more. But you can't just start there. You have to start at the level that you're at. You have to know what level you're at to be able to start at that level. Like, if you need to get into training, if you need to get stronger, starting at a level that is applicable for you is key for you not getting hurt. That's what creates a more resilient body. And knowing that factor, knowing to train there, to start there as a goal to work towards strength training is key. Because we need it for our bone health, we need it for our joint health. As women, specifically, we need those bones to know they need to get denser. When you have muscles that pull on those bones, especially our hips, when you have that loading going through, then our hip bones will become stronger. They will become more dense, more resilient against fractures. But to get there, to not stress our back, we have to start with some of the simpler moves. I hope this makes sense for everybody. I hope that you enjoyed this and that it gives you a little boost. If you need help with knowing what level you're at, if you need help with programming, let me know. Just say program, or if you want more information about the team or the core crushers that Erin's doing, let me know. Just say core crushers or team, and I'd be super happy to give you some information about it and give you some details. Have a fantastic night, and I hope everybody has a good week. Bye, guys.